Hello to the chicos, hello to the chicas. What I have today for you is an absolutely fantastic attacking chess game. And adding to that is also a little bit of theoretical exploration slash recommendation against the modern defense. The modern is d4 or e4 g6. So basically appears without knight f6. And this is a very clever move order against certain setups, in particular against the 150 attack, where our key plan with white is to play queen d3 and trade the bishop on h6. And so holding the knight back on g8 is quite a smart idea, and rather develop the queen side first, try to generate play where black wants to play anyway, and once again delay the development of the king side. Now, I have played this system obviously with white because this is my recommendation in my club players repertoire on Chessable, but I also experimented with this thing with black a fair bit, not without success. And one of the things that I have discovered throughout my games with both colors is that one of the key strategies that white needs to follow, and I don't want to draw this as a necessary a general rule of thumb, but pretty close to that, is that when c5 lands, almost always the best reaction you can do with white is to take it. I used to not do this at all, preferring to maintain the tension and carrying on, but I realized that opening up the position ought to favor white, right? Because our king is secured on the wing, whereas theirs is stuck in the middle. And so opening up the position is principled, even if it comes at the cost of releasing tension, which is not principled. So take is important. This allows white additional tactical motives, and often, for example, after d5, black can play knight f6, and then these pawns start running at you, and we don't really have anything going on the king side. Like take, and if knight takes, then once again, we're not really making headway. Whereas if I take with the pawn, then after knight h5, I can just forget about it. It's never gonna be a meaningful kingside pile-up. So yeah, take c5. That's my first hint for you as to how to play it. And in fact, the last one too, in terms of generic advice. And just take it from here. White. Oh, by the way, I forgot to introduce our players. Daftian Arsen against Mikhail Nikitenko. Also, shout out to Chess Gains on X or Twitter, aka Max Farberov. I actually saw this game posted by him on Twitter, and I went like, oh man, I'm stealing this for YouTube like mad. So shout out to Max. He posts really good stuff on Twitter, so be sure to follow him. Anyway, knight f4 played, not the best, not the worst. I would have probably done the same. Your engine would tell you to play here g5, which is quite weird at first sight because it forces black to close the king side. But at the same time, now after knight f4, they can no longer develop to f6, and preparing development with e6 is very, very problematic because bishop h3 and Saccarino is our way of life. And now after take, once again, you see the huge benefit of having traded on c5. The open d file is absolutely imperative here for us to succeed, that is. Anyway, knight f4 I think is possible. E6 played, king b1 played. Again, it's a typical move. I'm not going to comment on the engine's remarks here. After all, we are humans. Bishop e2, great. Development is completed. And now white is happy because the black king is a bit stuck. Obviously, you would prefer not to keep it in the middle forever, but castling kingside is very, very dodgy on account of g5, and now the kingside again is being ripped apart. So, black played knight b6, and here's something very curious happened, because now queen d6 wins at least a pawn due to the double attack on b6 and c5. But this would allow the game to go into an endgame scenario where admittedly white is up a pawn and should be winning, but this is not necessarily the best of fun you can have in a game of chess, especially from this position. And so I am going to send a shout out to Arsen Daftian too for choosing to play g5, even though question mark again, engine is not kind to us today, and trying to play for mate rather than win an endgame in 75 moves. Takes, 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 97, rook h7. And you might be wondering, well, where is that crazy attack you were talking about, coach? Watch. Boomski, baby! Out of nowhere comes knight h5, double exclam Marcarino, hitting the bishop on g7, leaving black with no choice but to capture. Bishop e5, f4 looks very, very gnarly. So, yeah, the take seems to be forced. And now comes the very, very clever rejoinder g6. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, with very few pieces, by the way, we are creating a really nasty looking kingside attack. King g8 played. If fg, it's immediate game over. Bishop h6. And after bishop takes, queen takes. White actually has a forced mate here. But quite a surprising first move. If you want to test yourself about how white can force a mate here, pause the video. I'm going to show you that right now. It's not g7. It's not g6 check. It's g5. Because the black king wants to run. And your job is to cut that path off. And if queen d8, that blocks the path. Now you take g6. And now we have got the checkmate. Very clever stuff. So, yeah, take is not possible. They played king g8. Bishop h6. Beauty. Bishop f6. And rook takes f7. Now, at this point, we are completely killing it. The black king is utterly defenseless, and there are at least two pieces tucked very, very far away on the queen side, and those two essentially are guaranteed to not to be able to partake in the support of the black king in any way, shape, or form. So we are looking golden. Now, this is where the game gets very, very exciting and cool. We play bishop f4, best move. And now all hell is about to break loose. First and foremost, our protagonist here plays a move that is worthy of move of the year. Bishop e5. Hello? Just hangs the bishop by two pieces in order to facilitate the queen h6 move. A clearance sacrifice, really. But according to the engine, the less flashy bishop d6 would have been a better choice here, as it directly controls f8, and after rook f8 we can just cash in immediately with bishop takes, knight takes, rook takes, and this is as good as resignable. But who could resist the temptation to play a move like this? So let's take it apart bit by bit. If bishop e5, queen h6, we have got mate in 2, knight f8, rook f8, rook f8, and queen h7 check, mate. Whereas if they take with hoppity hop, then we go check. Sorry, that's not check. That's a mate threat. And now after takes, we have got check and mate. So the e5 bishop is in fact immune. And in that spirit, black he played rook f8. Now what's very, very curious here is that I don't know if it's a bug in the engine or what's going on here, but when I play rook h7 here, which was played in the game, it comes up with a double question mark. And it says that now after black knight e5, the position is only 0.99. I actually want to show you this because I'm curious if it's only my engine or you guys have this too. But as soon as I see the top move on the recommended move there is knight e5. Yeah? As soon as I play it out, it switches to mate in 5. So I don't know what that is, but I wanted to show you this bug. It's very, very weird. That just goes on like that. It is a good move. But let's kill that engine. And let me show you something that is going to just, make you cry for attacking chess. So once again, rook h7 does win. However, what I have here for you is this move. And that is actually a deserved double exclam. Oh my god. So let's talk about what's going on here. Obviously, white wants queen h6, but it's not doable on account of rook takes f7. Right? So, we need to move the rook. Hence, white's choice of rook h7. But rook e7 was the way to go, friends. Now, the bishop is hanging by 2, and the rook is hanging by 1. Now, taking the rook would lead to literal identical lines. If knight e5, then queen h6. And now we have got some mate threats down on h7. And this is where the most prettiest line is about to come. Watch this. So it turns out that there is no mate yet after rook c8, because if check, I can simply sidestep it. And both of these squares, all three of them in fact, are covered. If you want a good puzzle for yourself, go for this one. White to move, mate in 3. Unfortunately, it has got two solutions. One is forcing, the other one is not. But I will show you it now. So the easy one is check here, and mate. But the real killer is if you start with rook f7. What a move. And now queen h7 is not stoppable other than rook f7, knight f7 and then check and mate. Very, very cool. If we take with bishop, then it's queen h6 and mate is essentially unstoppable. If I go this way, then rook e8 first and then no matter what blocks. This is also quite pretty. This is mate too. And then last but not least, of course, if I take the rook, then I have queen h6 and now dual mate threat can only be stopped by knight f6. When bishop takes f6, removes the last defender, and the queen-pawn combo succeeds in finishing the game. I forgot to go back to the proper layout. There you go. So we have all of this for you there. What else do I have? Yeah, so rook h7 and the crazy city double question marks, but it turns out that after bishop here, queen here, we still have a glorious mate threat with rook h8 and queen h7. Rook f4, and now g7. We're not done yet, folks. We're not done yet. Rook h8 now fails because I walk away. And there is no mate on f7 because of rookie. So, g7, knight f6, rook h8, king f7. And just when you thought that I ran out of funsies to show you, game of the move, candidate number 3, game of the year, queen h7. Just casually hanging the queen for free because that's how we roll. Now g8 queen is a double checkmate threat, so this sacrifice has to be accepted. But here we are, there comes the replacement. Now if I go to e7, then the rook takes, and if I try to escape here, that's the checkmate. Not quite escaping there. Whereas if I go to f6, then I get mated here. Wow. Oh, and last but not least, by the way, I have got this move. When check here, check here, check. Check. Oh, that is a Matutski and a half, friends. Ooh. Okay. Okay, that's not bad either, is it? So yeah, game ended. G8 queen. King f6. Rook h7. Now the mate threat is here and here. So bishop takes doesn't help because of queen g7 mate. Only move is queen c7, sacking the queen but holding the mate. And now this was good enough to trigger resignation. But he white missed the faster mate with check, check, and checkmate, which would have been the absolute worthiest finish for the game. So what an absolute banger this game was. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think this is a good game to play through a number of times in order to try to figure out various attacking schemes, and perhaps you want to analyze it as a coaching session. I will leave the PGN down below in the description. It is also a cool game to see how this DC idea works in real life, or whatever you want to call it. So what it looks like, what it feels like to play with DC. So investigate the consequences and again analyze the positions. So yeah, I think that this is really a multi-value game, and hopefully the video is as well. And on that note, we are going to call it a day. Thanks friends for tuning in and watching this absolute banger of a game. Please be sure to leave a comment, to subscribe if you haven't done so, to like the video, do all those algorithm boosting things for me, please. And I'll see you in the next one.